Good evening. Welcome once again to another edition of Reformed Studios Live. Thank you for tuning in. And please do tell a friend, do tell a brother, a sister, cousin, uncle to tune in to today's wonderful topic. So our topic for today is top 5 lessons from 40 years in marriage. Now, as you would appreciate, the institution of marriage has been under attack, I think, for a couple of years. And even here in Zambia, we hear of so many heartbreaking stories of people's marriages disintegrating, whether in the church or outside the church. And so we felt as Reform Studios it would be good to talk about these things, especially to hear from a couple that has been in marriage for 40 years. So this evening, we are very glad to have Mr. and Mrs. Sindano. You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking time to come to Reform Studios and to talk around the top 5 lessons in 40 years of marriage. So before we jump into the lessons, and I'm sure everyone is keen on hearing what these top 5 lessons are. And of course, please, these are not exhaustive, okay? But they are at least a sample of the major lessons that people should consider in marriage for them to have a good and successful marriage. So before we get into the top 5 lessons, perhaps you can just tell us a bit about yourselves, just so that, people get to know who Mr. and Mrs. Sindano are.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
it's good to be here, and thank you for the welcome. My name is Hector Sindano. I'm a mechanical engineer. I studied mechanical engineering at Unza, and I'm married to Agnes. As you've already heard in the introduction, we've been married for 40 years. In fact, this last month, 27th of April, was our 40th anniversary.
Wow.
We have 2 children, a boy and a girl. The girl is the older, Natasha. She's 36, 38.
38, all right,
Yes,
nice.
I should remember this. And the boy is a graphic artist. The girl is a school teacher.
All right.
My name is Agnes Sindano, retired nurse. But I trained after we had our 2 children, so I finished my training in 1995.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've been working until 2023 November.
Okay.
Yeah, as you said, we have 2 children.
Yes.
Yeah,
Lovely.
whom we miss very much.
I would imagine so. All right.
I should
Awesome.
hasten to add, I'm also retired.
All right. Awesome. So you're most welcome once again. So probably just as a way of starting out and also just getting to know you a bit more, where did you meet, and what were your first impressions of each other? Not how, but where did you meet? What were your first impressions of each other?
Yeah, so we met in 2 settings.
Okay.
We both worked at the University of Zambia.
Okay.
I was a staff development fellow at the time, and Agnes worked in the computer center.
Yeah.
But we also met at Lusaka Baptist Church, which we attended at the time.
Okay.
So
Alright.
that's where we actually met through friends. We had common friends. Agnes and I had common friends.
Okay.
And through those friends, we got to meet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
First impressions?
Yes.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah, very easy to get along. And as he said, we were friends to start with. And I think through that we developed a romantic relationship.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. And that is key. That is very key. Friendship is very, very key to having that close relationship. Yeah. And so as we said in our introductory remarks, today we're looking at the top 5 lessons. And of course you shared the top 5, and so I'll read through, and then you then take us through each lesson. Yeah. So the first lesson that you put down was Lesson 1 is be expressive in love for one another and your commitment to the vows. Be expressive in love for one another and your commitment to the vows.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think maybe by way of introduction,
Yes.
one, I do like the fact that we've called these lessons and not tips.
Right.
Because every married couple has lessons. You learn lessons, whether you've been married for 1 year or you've been married for 40 years. There are
True.
lessons to learn. So what we are sharing, our lessons, what we have learned. So they are not tips as such, because tips would imply that we have some unique insights into the kinds of things that make a marriage work. But I think what we have learned is the fact that there are things that either we did well and we contributed to us actually having a marriage that lasted, or we did badly and have learned the fact that if we had done this well,
Yes.
they would have contributed to a good marriage.
Right.
Good marriage.
Right.
So, yeah. So I don't know if you want to add to that, Agnes, before we actually
Yeah,
answer.
Yes, yes.
actually,
Specific.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think sometimes you read this, these 5 things will make a difference to your life. That's not what we are saying. It's the things that we've learned along the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I'm reminded of that scripture in the book of Titus, and of course it relates to older women teaching the younger women, but I mean we can relate it to the whole issue of you having gone ahead of others,
Yes.
and are able to then advise. And what I love about your introduction also is that you both met when you were Christians. So that was something that was a common bond as well, and a basis for having a strong foundation for a marriage. Yeah. All right. Yes.
Yeah, on the specific, in response to the first lesson, and I think love in some ways is something that everybody will say, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer. There needs to be love for a marriage to survive.
Yeah.
But I think the reason we've put it as a lesson is it's very easy to consider love as just that tingly feeling you feel. Now,
Yeah.
Agnes said her first impression of me was not bad. But I think if you can't build a marriage on that,
Yeah.
there has to be a lot more than that. And
Yes.
so I think we need to have a much deeper relationship
Yes.
that must exist, a loving relationship. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think once past the romance, I think comes where you start seeing the things which were so cute, they become annoying. And and I think to get over that, it's choosing to do the action love. Even when you think you have been irritated,
Yes.
you can say, oh, would you like a cup of tea? Oh, can I do this for you? You make a choice to do something loving
Yes.
than going by the irritation. Because to go with the irritation is so easy saying, munivuta, leave me alone. But
Yeah.
you can choose. I'm not going to say that. I am going to do the loving thing. And I think the more you do these little things, you find that actually the real love is beginning to grow. And the romance is still there, but it's the two are combining together,
Yeah.
going
Yes.
together.
Yeah. I think it really is important that we consider that love isn't just the giving of presents.
Right.
On our 40th anniversary, for example, whatever presents we gave each other, that's not what love is, but it does help to express
Yes.
that love.
Yes.
But I think you can't build it on buying the most expensive present you can think of
Yeah.
as a way of expressing your love.
If
Right.
you've got money, why not?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
But I think we've combined this with vows, because I think all of us, at some point, when we got married during our wedding, we said some vows.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if if I asked what vows people took, what they would actually point to.
Yes.
Most likely, we took similar vows, which are kind of based on the kind of Western idea of getting married in a church. But I wanted to point out, and I think that's partly why we've added vows, the fact that your marriage still carries the same commitment, irrespective of whether you got married and said those vows in a church, or you got married outside of church. And I think of our parents, maybe our grandparents.
Yes.
They got married maybe in situations where those vows were alien to them.
Yeah.
And yet, the concept, for example, of divorce was just as abhorrent to them as it is to us now.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, stop me if I'm speaking too much, because sometimes I just go on. And stop me if I'm carrying on too long.
Don't worry, I'll cut in.
I wanted to say, you see, that if I was to ask a number of people, can you tell me of how many weddings you've read in the Bible? And I think also ask them to tell me where those weddings, where they happened and what vows were shared. Now, I think most people remember the one in John 2, the wedding at Cana.
Right, yeah.
You know? Now, that there are no vows being explained there. In fact, it's just a celebration. They've just run out of wine, and so let's have some more drink, please.
Yeah.
And they'll find several other places where marriage is mentioned or weddings are mentioned, but there isn't a place where vows are mentioned. But I have one wedding, and I don't think everyone actually would take this as a wedding.
Right, okay.
Where actually the vows are exchanged. And I find this the most moving passage in the Bible.
Wow,
it is in Genesis. Genesis chapter 15.
Okay.
Now, the background there is that God is making a lot of promises to Abraham, as he was at the time, before he becomes Abraham.
Yes.
And he makes all these promises to Abraham. And then Abraham asks God, how will I know that you will fulfill these things?
Yes.
Now, he's not doubting that God can do it. He wants assurance that these things will happen. And so God asks him to get some animals, and I think we're not going to read through the whole passage.
Yes,
so if you could read for me, please, just verse 10, and then verse 12, and verse 17.
Okay,
Genesis
so
15.
Genesis 15,
Yes.
verse 10. And he brought him all these, cut them in half, and laid each half over against the other, but he did not cut the birds in half.
Yes.
Okay, then verse 12.
Yes.
As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, and behold, dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. Then verse 17. When the sun had gone down and it was dark, behold, a smoking firepot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces.
Right. So, in fact, what's being described there is that Abraham gets these animals that God gives him, cuts them in half, and lays them side by side on either side.
Yes.
And a deep sleep is caused to happen on Abraham. And while he's sleeping, this is where I say the most moving thing happens. In fact, what happens is that God walks between those two parts.
The covenant, yeah.
Yes, and God actually, what He's saying I think in the time that is described here, the way you made a solemn covenant is you got an animal, you cut it in half, and you both pass through it, and what you are signifying is that if I should break this covenant, may what happened to these animals happen to me.
Yeah.
So what God is saying there is that if I can't actually keep this promise, may I cease to be God, in effect, because that's what He's saying. May I just cease to be God. And I find that such a moving thing that God can actually commit to such a level and the depth about the vows that He has made. Because really it's like a marriage going on. There are promises being made.
Yes.
There aren't rings being exchanged, but there is a form of a ceremony in which...
and two parties.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that shows just how seriously God takes the vows that He has made. The commitment, His commitment is astounding to the point that He's saying, may I cease to be God if I fail to keep these vows.
Yes.
And I think this is what holds us together as a couple. Really,
That's
is
right.
we've made a vow.
Yes.
Our love is a covenant love. We've
Yes.
covenanted to live
Yes.
together.
Yes.
And we are saying that may God actually split me in half if I fail to keep the vows that I have made to Agnes.
Very, very interesting point that you have made there. And it actually, a lot of things went through my mind of how that you spoke of romantic love does have its place,
Yes.
but it cannot keep a marriage because what you mentioned, the commitment, you know, that love and commitment has to go together.
Yes.
Because you realize that this is an institution that God himself established. And like you said, the whole issue of the fact that even if those vows did not happen in a church, but because marriage is an institution God himself established,
Exactly.
God takes marriage seriously.
Yeah.
And the other one that came to mind is during the wedding vows, I remember they always say the institution of marriage is one that should not be entered into lightly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there is a biblical line where we say, "Till death do us part."
Yes.
Because that is
The covenant.
it is a covenant, and so we are saying only death can split us.
Right. Awesome. So you are watching Reform Studios live. We are off to an excellent start as we are looking at the topic of top 5 lessons in 40 years in marriage. Top 5 lessons in 40 years in marriage. I just want to look through and see who is watching. We have Gershom watching from Woodlands Extension. Thank you for tuning in. And we have Kanyanta also watching from Ndola. Windula is also watching. Thank you so much. Please keep the comments coming in. And of course, as always, please feel free to share questions as well. As we head through the top 5 lessons, the remaining 4, please post your questions and then we'll see how we're able to handle those questions as they come through. All right.
Just go easy on us.
Go easy, yeah. All right, so we've spoken about the whole issue of love and commitment to the vows. Lesson 2 speaks of demonstrate mutual respect and trust for each other. Lesson 2 says demonstrate mutual respect and trust for each other.
I guess love and respect tend to go hand in hand. I think what's respect? Respect is holding someone in high esteem. You can trust them to make, what's the word?
Good?
Sorry. Yeah, good and trustworthy decisions. And I think it can be verbal, where you agree with what they're saying, or by action, not where you're questioning, why have you done this? Just because you know the person, you respect that they are making the best decision for both of you.
Yes.
And therefore, that also goes along with trust.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean, if you are not understanding the decisions they're making, there's nothing wrong to ask.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And because sometimes I think what I find, we are very, very different. He is so logic, and I'm so melancholic and emotional.
Right.
And sometimes I wish you could stop being logic and just listen to my emotions.
Yes.
But I think because of that, he is able to make decisions which will stand a long time than when you make decisions when you're emotional. Because I can make, when you're emotional,
Yes.
the decisions you make are based on what's happening around.
Right.
Here and now. But because his logic, he can see further, saying, okay, these emotions are going to run over.
Yes.
And then what happens afterwards? Oh gosh, I shouldn't have promised I'll give you 10p.
Yeah.
And I'm going to find it from somewhere where he can say, no, I think we can't afford to give that. We can give 2p. So That's so respect is being able to trust someone and I think sometimes the way you talk about them as well does matter.
Right.
Because if I'm going to rubbish him when I'm talking with my friends, how are they going to respect him?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Worse off
I
even
think
with one's family.
Exactly. So the way I would treat him, that's the way the world that is looking are going to treat him. So if I'm saying you're unworthy, why should they think he is worthy?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And I think trust actually is it's a major component of any relationship.
Yes.
Once trust is broken, the relationship is on shaky ground. I think you will find in most relationships, when you start out, you trust each other. You do things without even questioning.
Right.
But if a reason is given to begin to distrust, then what that does is the very foundations of that relationship begin being gradually shaken. And I think a relationship becomes difficult to maintain. It's maintainable, but it becomes difficult to maintain because everything. I don't know whether in this scene we're allowed to quote some secular singers like Elvis Presley when he talks about we can't go on together with suspicious minds. You know? And essentially all he's trying to say is really that to build a relationship, you can't be suspicious of every move that is made because that makes it very difficult really to move forward. And that's why the two go hand in hand. When you have the respect, you respect someone.
Yes.
You also find it easy to trust them. And once the trust goes, the respect becomes contrived. Because it's almost being done because it's a duty rather than because it's happening
It's like the small child who says, you know, I'm kneeling down physically, but in my heart I'm standing up.
Standing up. Yes. I've heard of such children.
Right. And I think trust is such a major issue in a lot of marriages. Trust and respect is a major issue. And I think I love what you mentioned, how that you recognize your differences, but in recognizing those differences, you celebrate those differences, realizing that your area of weakness is his strength and his area of weakness maybe your strength, and that brings about a balance.
And there is a place for both because it's a bit like you say a linear thinker. I'm a linear thinker. I like things to one thing to follow to the next. But you can have someone who thinks they see the bigger picture, but I don't see it yet until they color it in for me. Once they throw a few more colors in it, then suddenly I say, aha, this is what you had in mind. And everything cannot be expressed in a linear fashion where you just logically list this follows after this. There are times when you do need a non-linear thinker who just paints the picture for you from just an outline and then in a non-linear way put color into it. So I think that, and I think that's why we've got artists and then we've got engineers. You don't go to a museum to go and watch a slide rule being used. But there are situations where a slide rule is useful. But when you go to a museum and you see a painting, it appeals to an aspect of you that an engineering thing doesn't appeal. So you need both, I think.
We need both. All right. Okay. Thank you for that. So, watching Reform Studios live, we are seeing the comments coming in. Gabriel watching from Lusaka. We have Milika watching from the Lai Estates. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are discussing top 5 lessons in 40 years or from 40 years of marriage with Mr. and Mrs. Sindano.
Thank you.
And quite a rich experience thus far, and looking forward to the other lessons that you have in store for us. Please, if you do have questions, post them, whether on YouTube or on Facebook, and we'll be able to handle those questions. All right, so then, so we've talked about love for one another and commitment to the vows. Marriage is a God idea, and as such, it should be taken seriously with that commitment that God Himself shows. And then, of course, we've now spoken about mutual respect and trust for each other, celebrating those differences. And I love what you said about the whole issue of if you speak of him in an unworthy manner to friends, relatives, they will not respect him. And I think it's a major pitfall that a lot of people find themselves in.
It is.
It's a major pitfall that people find themselves
I
in.
think I remember going to one of these kitchen parties, and I remember one of the young ladies who's been married for a long time just said, actually, when you quarrel or you differ, you go and tell maybe people that are close to your friends. They'll still be angry with your husband. Well, you two, you've gotten over it and you're getting, but they're still fuming at him. So I think that's where respect comes. What do I share with other people? And maybe in sharing, why am I sharing it? Is it to get advice or just to put him down?
Right,
Yeah.
right. So wisdom is needed there.
Exactly.
Wisdom is
Yeah.
needed. All right. Okay. Lesson 3. And please, should you want to double back a bit and connect, to the previous lesson, feel free to do so. Yeah. So lesson 3, you said develop shared areas of interest and grow together in them. Lesson 3, develop shared areas of interest and grow together in them. Yeah.
So I think, shall I or shall you?
You will.
I will. Gosh, that's a command. That's a joke, by the way. So I think while I've mentioned all these serious things, but marriage has to be enjoyed.
Yes.
It's a time which, someone once said, if I've met the girl that I want to spend the rest of my life with, I want the rest of my life to start as soon as possible. So the rest of my life starts there. And so you really want to enjoy the rest of your life. You don't want the rest of your life to be miserable. And it helps where you can share a lot of things that you can do together. At the moment, for example, we do the campus outreach together.
Oh, yes.
We like doing
at church, yes.
Yeah, we like doing ministry together because that's we can then talk about these things later, share our experiences. We like, I think, a lot of similar theologians, as it were. You see, I could mention a few names, but I won't. But there's a whole list of theologians that we both like. And I think we both don't like similar type of theologians.
Right.
So that's...
so at least you hold to the same theology.
We hold to the same theology, yeah.
Which is quite interesting because we are quite different.
Yes.
But it's like there are certain people, we really enjoy listening to them.
Right.
And other people, it's not that there's anything wrong with them, but somehow you just don't connect with them.
Right.
They are saying the right things, but they just don't get to you.
Yeah.
I mean, we eat out a lot. We like to eat out a lot. We don't do movie nights as much as we ought to. We used to. That's a lesson learned. We should do movie nights.
Yeah. Key takeaway.
What are we going to watch?
Yeah. No, but the interesting thing is every time we've gone on holiday, wherever we've been, we've gone out for a movie on one of the days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in any country where we've been, and we've been to a number of countries together.
Okay.
And we've sought out a cinema and gone out and watched a movie.
Right.
Yeah. But I think it would be fair to say we don't watch a lot of movies together.
Yeah.
But we have mutual friends as well. A lot of friends that are both friends to Agnes and friends to me.
Right.
So there has to be a lot of interest that you share together outside of just the home. When you both lock the door to the home, what still glues you together? So there are a lot of shared interests. We don't collect stamps together. I collect stamps, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
I've collected stamps ever since I was a kid at secondary school. I still collect stamps.
Wow.
I think Agnes thinks that's a waste of time.
The last time I saw a stamp, but anyway. Those differences again, All right. Okay. Okay.
stamp.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but
So,
I think that's
shared interest.
Shared interest, yeah, that's what I would
So
say
maybe
to
before Mr. Sindano, you come in. So of course, and I loved what you've spoken about doing ministry together. And of course, I took note of the fact that you mentioned that you are retired now. But
Yes.
obviously, I'm obviously assuming that even the time that you were working as an engineer and you were working as a nurse, somehow there was still time for those shared interests.
I think probably when we were working, it was being a nurse, I was doing shifts. So I
Yes.
think he was more involved, especially with the youths at church. Yeah.
Right.
So while he did that, I think my favorite was creche. I love babies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess it's still working
Ministry.
with younger
We-
people. We tend
yeah.
to work with
Yeah.
younger people.
Right.
Yeah.
Only the age limit on the other end maybe
Yeah.
extends with Agnes
Yes.
to much younger.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because the key thing is shared interest and the love for ministry
Yeah.
as well. Because that's what I see from,
Yes.
from what you've explained.
Yeah.
You know, because I think a lot of people, I mean, I've had situations where you hear of friends who say, we grew apart. You know, we grew apart, you know.
And I think that's very easy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Very
Yes.
easy.
Please. Yes.
I think especially if your interests are so diverge. Maybe that's not so much a problem, but I think even if they are very different, but if you can come and discuss it,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Find a common ground where
common
you
ground.
sit, and talk about these, even if there are differences.
Yes.
Yeah.
What those are.
Yeah.
Yes. So you may have your interests where you hang out with your friends and
Yeah.
you also have your time with your friends, but
Yeah.
there's a place where the two
Yeah.
of you have that shared interest,
Yes.
Exactly.
whether it's serving together
Yeah.
and the
yeah,
like.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. So then, let me just have a look at the comments on YouTube in case we have any. All right. None so far. Okay, we have Kondwelani watching from Chilenje via YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. And believe it or not, we have Stella watching from Uganda.
All right.
All right, yeah. Thank you so much, Stella, for tuning in. We pray that you are being blessed by our discussion. All right, no questions yet. Please keep them coming. Comments, questions, please feel free to ask. All right, so then, lesson 4 speaks of have total transparency on financial matters. This is a big one. Finances, have total transparency on financial matters. I don't know who will go first.
Agnes,
I think I can't say we are blessed. I think we are that way wired, the two of us. He is a very generous man, and both of us come from very big families.
Okay.
And when we moved to UK, most of those people were in schools. And when you're transparent, then you don't have to hide that you've sent money to your young sister because she needs this. It's
Right.
something which you can discuss and say, oh, this person needs this money, or this one needs that money. So together, you are making those decisions together.
Right.
And at the same time, it's not tit for tat. It's where the need is.
Ah.
Then you do help
Right.
together.
Right. Right.
It doesn't have to be a competition saying, oh, this we've given to your family so much, therefore we need to give to my family so
Right.
much.
Right.
And on the other hand, I think, again, both of us have been so blessed that both families, most people in the families are doing well.
Okay.
So I think, and because of that, I think there hasn't been so much of
Pressure.
pressure.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, as you said, I mean, financial matters can also create friction within within a marriage, because you hear these days of marriages where they have a prenuptial agreement, which is totally ungodly, because as we've already said at the beginning, at the top end, when we started with the first lesson, our intention is that this marriage is going to be there forever. So why would we need a prenup? And so what we have done is we've always had a joint current account.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. For many, many years. Okay. So whenever she got paid, it goes in the same account. When I get paid, the amount goes in the same account. Yes. And so there was a sense in which we both knew just how much we had and how much we didn't have, as the case may be.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And I think it links also into the trust we mentioned in lesson 2.
Yes.
Because part of the reason you say, okay, you have your own account and I'll have my own, apart from the logistical one, sometimes it's just that you don't trust how she's going to spend this money.
Right. Yeah.
And I actually think, you know, when we talk about the woman in Proverbs 31,
yes,
you know, the famous woman.
Yes.
In fact, she's quite, for today, she's quite, what's the word I'm going to say? Very relevant, because one of the things that what it says, I think it was in verse 10, where it says that she is more valuable than rubies. Right. Ruby 40, you know.
Oh, I see. Okay.
This is where I'm at.
Ruby.
Yes. Okay. She's more valuable than rubies.
I need one.
She didn't get any, because I think she's more valuable
what is
than
a ruby anniversary, right?
Yeah. But you know, what I was going to say about that woman is that, I mean, we all concentrate on the things she does.
Yeah.
And how she is such an iconic example of what a married woman who is really ideal should look like.
Yes.
But I think it's in verse, I think it's in verse 20 or 23, somewhere there, where it says her husband trusts her fully. You know, he has every confidence, I think is what it says. He has every confidence in her. In other words, there is also, she's spending a lot of money. She's, you know, as, if you read through there, she's buying land.
Trading with people.
She's spending a lot of money.
Border trader.
But her husband trusts her. He's not bothered. He's actually sat somewhere on the council deliberating whatever men deliberate. Yes. So he's not bothered about that. But I think that's important, you know. If I'm always looking over my shoulder, thinking, I wonder where she sent all this money.
Whenever an SMS sounds, heart skips a beat.
Exactly.
Hey.
And so I'm having to ask, so this money, what happened?
Yeah.
You know? And you know, Agnes is, maybe she's not so bothered about the way I'm spending money also, because there's been times when I spent a lot of money and she hadn't noticed.
Okay.
Because... And when I've told her that, you know, like we have been building a house in Lilai.
Okay.
And I bought a kitchen.
Okay.
And we discussed the kitchen. But she didn't know I bought it.
Okay.
Until I mentioned that the kitchen is arriving on this day. So, but that's partly because she doesn't every time go through the bank account, you know. I mean, I do get, as you say, you get an SMS every time something happens to the account. I get an SMS. But when you've got 1,000 SMSs, you ignore about it. You don't look at them anymore, because, you know, whatever they are, they can't be serious. You know, they cannot be serious.
Yes, so, trust.
So I think it does link into trust. Yeah, where there is no trust, then there is... I mean, people have different reasons. I'm not saying everyone should have a joint account. I mean, there are different reasons why people want to have separate accounts.
Yes.
I mean, in the first few years after we married, we both had separate accounts.
Right, yes.
Yeah, but when we bought a house in the UK... we needed the money to come out of, for paying the mortgage, to come out of an account. We just had a joint account, and so the money came out of that account to pay our mortgage. And that's how we maintained. And I think it has helped in that area. We've never really had a problem which is based on finances.
Right.
Yeah. We've had problems, but not fundamental ones where we're thinking, gee whiz, you really ruining the money.
Swiping at the queue. What's going on?
So I think it is very much a trust thing, and I think that's what I would say why it is important. Very much linked into lesson number 2.
Yeah. I think for me, one underlying lesson that I see running through, considering you've been married for 40 years, is also the aspect of not taking each other for granted. Yes. I think reading between the lines, I'm seeing that, because I think human nature, it's easy to just sort of, 40 years, take each other for granted and say, who needs shared interests, you know, and, we have arrived.
But it is like giving your life to the Lord. You don't do it one day and then you sit back. You are continually learning, you are being renewed and being made more and more like Christ.
Yes.
And so we are being made more and more like each other as we become, I don't know if she likes the idea of being like me, but I do like the idea of being like her. Yes. So, I think it isn't something that you learn your lessons on day one when someone witnesses to you and you throw away the book and says, now I'm born again. No, but you're continually learning. And I think it's the same with marriage. You have to continually learn. So, we can't take each other for granted because we are a fallen people.
Yes.
And that is why we needed Christ. Otherwise, if we could do all these things on our own, why would we need Christ?
Right. That's so true. So true. Lesson 5.
Yes.
Believe it or not. I'm still keeping an eye out for the online questions. I guess the interaction is so good that people don't even want to start asking questions because they might miss out on something. But or if not, they heard your plea.
You're very kind.
Go easy on us, and the Lord has heard. All right. So before I get into lesson 5, so maybe just a run through of what we've looked at so far. We've said be expressive in love for one another and your commitment. Demonstrate mutual respect and trust for each other. Lesson 3, develop shared interests and grow together in them. And then last one that we just looked at just now was have total transparency on financial matters. Just a minute, let me just see. Okay, we do have a question. Let's handle the last one. And then we'll jump into the question. The question is about how can you rebuild broken trust? Okay, so I will let that one simmer. As we look at lesson 5, value open and honest communication. Value open and honest communication. Stella will come to your question. We will come to your question on how can you rebuild broken trust. So value open and honest communication.
I guess I'll start on that one. Not because I'm the most communicative. But I think in the differences that we mentioned earlier about, God has made us male and female.
Yes.
And the reason he didn't make us male and male is because there's differences to be brought to the marriage that God intends that they be expressed in a marriage relationship.
Yes.
And some of that is just the way we are wired as male and female. I think I'm not exaggerating if I said there's been times in our marriage when the silent treatment has been the modus operandi.
Picture no sound.
Exactly. And I look back, and I cannot think of one of the challenges we had that was solved by the silent treatment.
Right.
So I think ultimately what resolved our issues was when we sat down and talked about them. Now I can understand why one wants to be silent. It's because one can be really stupid. You've noticed I'm going in the third person.
You're going to say one can be hurt.
One can be really stupid. I'm going in the third person just and there are times when the only way to actually deal with this situation is to just stop talking for some time. Just allow the situation to get to a point where communication can happen again. Because if you try and force communication at a point where stupidity reigns, it's very difficult to get through to the other person. And
Right,
so I think
right.
I can understand the silent treatment. But I think if it becomes your go-to every time, whenever something has gone wrong, you stop talking, then you won't actually resolve anything. Because all that's going to happen is you just end up with an accumulation of issues that are unresolved.
Yeah.
And eventually,
Yeah.
like a dam, it bursts.
Yes.
And you don't know where to stop it because suddenly, they say it's the quiet ones you have to watch out for.
Oh,
It's
yes.
been all this stuff has been, I was going to say glowing, what's the word? Been like ambers. It's been there. And it's quite hot underneath, but
Yeah.
you see the top and all you can see is just ashes.
Oh,
But
yes,
you
yes,
don't
like a
realize
fire.
that underneath
Like a
there's
fire,
a lot going on there.
There's a lot.
But when you just, push the whole thing, I'm mixing metaphors here, the dam bursts because,
Yes.
And so you don't want to get to that point. I think you want to have regular, open communication where you can talk about anything and
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, I'll stop there for now because I think you probably want to defend yourself about the silent treatment.
I think, as I said, I'm quite an emotional person.
Yes.
So I think sometimes I just think I better shut up because if I talk, I'll say something which I can't take back because once
yeah.
it goes out there,
Yes.
you can't control it.
Yes, it's like the scripture which says, "Be slow to speak."
Yeah.
So-
Well, that's my excuse. I'm just
know.
being spiritual.
Yeah, but I mean,
No, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't joke like that.
Yeah, no.
No, I think it's just, I don't know. I think I find it very difficult when things, I'm so angry to express how much. So I just go quiet.
Right.
Yeah. But because he's logical, he goes through the day and starts working out what could have happened. And probably 8 out of 10, he'll come up with the right reason why I'm quiet.
Yeah, most husbands, you start thinking now, was it because I didn't compliment the food? That was okay. Is it because?
Yeah.
yeah, because there are times when suddenly she's quiet and you're thinking, oh, now what happened here? You see? But we can, which is why I was talking about speed, we can be very careless sometimes where you just say something and you've moved on. You just said, it's a small flippant comment, which is quite hurtful, but you didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
You moved on.
Yeah.
Until suddenly you notice that,
Someone has shut
someone
down.
has shut down. What's
Yeah.
going on? And so, as Agnes says, I tend to spend a lot of time analyzing the day, what actually went through the day. And I can go almost on a minute day, almost hour by hour,
Yeah. Yeah.
until I get to the point, think, this is where I lost it here. Yeah.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
then you talk about it.
Yes.
You talk about it. You
Yeah.
have to talk about it.
Yeah. So if I hear you, I can hear intentionality. I can hear intentionality that it's not enough just to say, let's just talk.
Yeah.
Just talk, but there's that intentionality of putting her first before you, which of course, scripture tells us not to
Taking it
have,
serious.
Yeah.
taking it
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah.
Maybe, because as we said, men and women are different. Maybe to you it's not that serious, but the fact that someone is upset,
Yeah.
Yes,
take it serious.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Take it serious. Be intentional
Yeah.
Yeah.
to meet each other. And I love what you mentioned at the beginning, talking about the whole issue of friendship and how that you said that's where it starts, because when you are friends,
Yeah.
you get to know each other
Yeah.
and also take time to sit down and iron things out.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Open and honest communication. So,
Yes.
delving back to Stella's question,
Yes.
how can you rebuild broken trust?
Again, I think it has to be intentional.
Right.
Depending whoever has broken the trust. I think one of the things I've learned, I was listening, let me keep on. I think sometimes you want to put in guards and boundaries so that people don't cross them. To me, I think sometimes you try to be their savior and you can't.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is that if they've done something which you don't like and you're scared it's going to happen again,
Right.
you don't have to put in things in place to try and stop it, like, okay, now I'm not going to allow you to do this on your own or do this, because then you're trying to say, I am
policing
your
someone.
savior, because if I'm not there, you can't do this. But trust them in the hands of the Lord.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The Lord is their savior. And if it's something which really troubles you and you think you can trust them, they are Christians.
Yeah.
They know right from wrong. So if you just leave them in the hands of the Lord, you can trust the Lord. We can't trust each other as much as we trust the Lord, because
Yeah.
we know the Lord loves that person as much as he loves you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
So I think sometimes it's just do it again.
Don't.
How many
Okay.
times should I forgive?
Yeah.
70 times 70. So I think that's where trust comes in.
Yeah.
You forgive
Yeah.
and you keep trusting.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I hear you right, I guess that's where prayer comes in.
Exactly.
Trusting that person in the hands of the
In the
Lord.
hands
Yeah.
of the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To say if I decide to become their policeman, I mean,
Exactly.
like you're saying, am I trying to become God now? You know, like.
But that's not trust,
where
even,
you-
isn't it? If,
Yeah.
If you're going to say, I'm going to police the situation, you're not trusting. You're saying, now I need to really get close to make sure this doesn't happen again. Whereas trust is the opposite. It's saying, I'm going to let go because... But it's a very good question asked, actually, because I
Yes.
think we had a discussion about it yesterday when we were talking about this. And I think one of the things we were saying is sometimes, in order for the trust to come back, you must see that there is genuine repentance.
Right.
So if someone comes to you and said, I'm sorry, but in the very next day they are back doing the same thing or a similar thing, then it's very difficult to actually see that they're genuinely sorry and the trust can be rebuilt. But if they said, I'm sorry, and you can see that they're making steps to address the cause of the distrust,
Yeah.
then you have almost a duty really to give them that space to build it. But and as Agnes has said, leave them in the hands of the Lord. Your job is to then trust that, okay, I can see they've turned. I mean, I don't like, when we say when you were a non-Christian and you became a Christian, we say you've turned 180 degrees. To me, 180 degrees seems to say you're just going back to where you were. So I know what we're trying to say.
Yes.
You're going in the opposite direction to where you were going.
Yeah.
But I tend to just say you go 90 degrees to where you're going. I'm an engineer. So you don't do 180 degrees, you should 90 degrees. If you are going that way, you should be going that way.
Right.
So, I mean, on a serious note, I think it is a very, very important question because, as I said, once the trust is broken and is not rebuilt, then the relationship almost invariably is just going to be rocky. I heard a story, it's an anecdote, of a man he was a security guard working at they were building a very tall building, like your Findeco house.
Yes.
And he was also building a house. So he would go in the basement. This particular building had a basement. He would go into the building and he would knock off a few blocks to go and build his house, knock off a few blocks and build his house.
Yeah.
And after a while, on the 15th floor, they noticed cracks. Now, they didn't know what happened. They went to the 15th floor to look for things, and they couldn't understand why. And it took a structural engineer to say the problem is not here. It's in the foundation, down there.
Yes.
And trust is like that. It's the foundation on which you are building things. And once that foundation begins to crack, someone is compromising it by removing blocks because they are busy building their own building there. Then the ultimate thing is that you start seeing cracks, and you start seeing them at the very top, where you least expect them to see cracks there.
Yes. Yes, when, you know, with what you, I think in pictures, with what you've said, I tend to think that sometimes it expresses itself where you see a couple having tension.
Yes. Yeah.
Even out there in the public, you know, because trust in private has been broken.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to hide it. That's why you see it up there, because the irritation, I think, we do know a couple actually jointly, where you could actually see the tension between them, and you knew there's something going on. They need to work at this from underneath. Because and their marriage did finally eventually, and they were both Christians, but the marriage has broken down.
Ish.
But you could see it even then. There was tension whenever we met with them.
Yeah.
There was that relationship where you could see that things aren't right here.
Yeah. So I guess there's the aspect of prayer. There's the aspect of being intentional about it, and I guess also what Stella herself has done is to seek counsel, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
from those who have gone before.
Exactly.
You know, to say there's this issue, and you know, how do we move past this, and to get that counsel,
Exactly.
godly counsel.
Yeah, I mean, we are all surrounded by, we are in a family. We are all surrounded by people who've gone before us. And that's why I was saying I like the fact that we are not calling these tips, we are calling them lessons. Every one of us who's married has lessons to share.
Yeah.
We've learned some lessons. Maybe we've had more exposure, at least 40 years of exposure, and therefore have learned even more lessons that we can share. There are people who've been married 60 years, and they have even more lessons to share, but we all have lessons to share. And so when you found yourself in that situation where the trust is broken, but you're not sure how to deal with it, talk to some people that you trust.
All right. Okay. Looks like people have woken up and questions are coming in. Okay. So we'll handle the next 3 questions. Then we'll have to wind down.
Okay.
There's a question on Facebook here and another one on YouTube. Okay. So 3 questions. Hey, wait. I didn't take. Oh, goodness. See more. All right. So here we go.
Don't click on see more.
All right, so here we go. So what's one tradition or habit, Teresa is asking, what's one tradition or habit you've consistently maintained throughout your 40 years together?
That's for Agnes to answer.
Tradition.
All right, and then what significant changes have you made in your relationship over the years? For example, how you handle certain things. Yeah. Okay, so basically something that has remained consistent, okay, throughout your 40 years together. And then what has changed? Maybe perhaps how you did things at the beginning. I know you touched on 1 or 2 things, you know, and then, okay. And then, of course, the last one that Teresa is asking is, are there any habits you don't like in your partner? And for the sake of peace, you have chosen to just live with them. Okay, so first question, what's one tradition or habit you've consistently maintained throughout your 40 years together?
I think probably our faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. I don't know whether, I'm not sure whether I'm talking, the tradition, or are they talking of tradition as in our how we are brought up in Zambia or thing.
No, I think they mean what we do.
A practice, I think.
Practice in
what
family.
we practice.
Yeah. So like we always, we don't do it now, we've moved to UK. We used to have takeaway food every Friday night.
Oh, yes.
Oh, takeaway food every Friday night.
Yeah. So it's one day I knew I wasn't cooking. So I loved my Fridays.
So we did that for a long
time.
Nice.
They would take the kids to youth groups at church. From there, would go out.
Yeah. So it was like a date night.
Yes,
Kind of.
A family.
Kind of.
Yes.
Family. Yes.
Family.
Yeah, because it included our children as well.
The kids as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we did that for a long time, I think, until we moved here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've never actually had a date night, have we? No.
The things you learn when you come on Reform
maybe
Studio.
that's
Please feel free to come
lesson
again,
learned.
you know? I love this. You are ever learning, huh? Ever learning. Okay, all right. Of course, if you do remember one, you can always go back. So what significant changes have you made in your relationship over the years? For example, how you handle certain things.
I guess maybe for me, starting out in marriage, you start out with very prickly edges. I'm very critical, whether it's just my upbringing.
I didn't say it.
You confessed.
I'm very critical.
Yes.
I criticize most things. In fact, I can find something to criticize about just about anything.
Yeah.
And so I think Agnes has had to put up with a lot over the years.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's something that I've been working on.
Right.
And I think one of the ways I've dealt with it is to just be quiet when I'm feeling like criticizing and allow myself to see. To be a grace finder, I think, is the way. To see the positive aspect that I can say.
Yeah.
Instead of finding the negative aspect all the time.
Right.
Yeah. So that's something I've had to change over the years, and it's still. I mean, every so often but it's something I know I need to work on, and it's a lifetime. You're continually working on it. But I am a very critical person.
All right, so I think that handles number 3.
Okay.
Self-confessed. And then you have this you don't like in your partner. For the sake of peace, you've chosen to just live with them. So, yeah.
I like the way you rushed to,
And in your case, I don't know who.
Yeah.
Remind me, I'm perfect, aren't I?
Yeah. I mean, apart from the silent treatment. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes, the silent treatment.
I think she does it less now. But when we first married, in fact, the first time when I saw it, we've probably been married less than a year.
Wow.
And I can't remember what happened.
No, it's because...
Now I'll find out what happened. 40 years old. Yeah, what happened?
That's one thing which I've struggled with. Because he was a student, I was at home all by myself. And one thing I said, if you're going to be late, please let me know. And up to now, it's something which has never happened, so I've got to live with that.
No, I think, you see, my argument was, I'm busy. If I'm not at home, I must be working. So I'll let you know.
Thank you, Auntie Agnes. All right, okay, so let me switch. Gosh, it's becoming active now.
It's a good job you said we are stopping after 3.
All right, let's see how far we can push it a bit.
Yeah.
All right, so Philemon is asking, what have you learned about yourself through marriage? What role has laughter or humor played in your relationship? And how has your relationship evolved over the decades? Of course, I think you have sort of touched a bit on that.
Yeah, some of that.
Yeah, some of that, things that you've had to change over the years. So maybe we can focus on what have you learned about yourself through marriage, and what role has humor played in your relationship?
Probably, I think we got married, left 2 days after we got married to go to the UK. So all our 39 years were in the UK. So I think for that reason, it's I think probably it's different for someone who has lived here with the family and everybody around you.
Right.
So I think being away, probably that we've become so much reliant on each other because that's all we had.
Right. So you've heard that. For those of you couples who are struggling to be reliant on each other, just move.
Yes.
Go out of the country.
No, but you can do that even here.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think we are a communal, in our tradition we are very communal.
Yes.
Everybody wants to input into your marriage. But I think maybe you have to choose what to let in and what not, and make sure you agree.
Yes.
And being away made that easier because you didn't have a lot of input from everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
But having said that, I think I must say he has been protective of me. We've had an issue probably where things haven't haven't been right, and you could see family are not happy, but he still protected me. So that again, you feel it's not that I'm not saying he chose me and not the other people, but it's the fact that he's saying you are part of me.
Yes.
So this is who she is.
Yes.
I think we are going back to the lesson one, really.
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't it? That,
Yes.
You've
Yes.
made a commitment.
Commit to one another.
Yeah.
Being
And
loyal to
once
one
you've
another.
made that commitment, and I think there has to be a lot that to actually begin to differentiate the two of you. And I think I like what I mentioned in Genesis 15, what God does there. He basically comes down and condescends to our level to say, I am actually, you notice what happened there is that only God went between the animals. Abraham was actually passive. He was asleep, in a deep sleep.
Yes.
So he wasn't even aware of what's going on, because that is how God was committed to making sure this happens. He's not going to entrust it to a human being who has a flimsy, one day you are here, the next day you are not.
Okay.
So I think that's part of, sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
So what role has laughter or humor played in your relationship? Major?
A lot. He's very funny.
I think you have to laugh at things together. I mean, we do actually... maybe also one of the things that's happened is that our humor sometimes has become a bit alien because of our background. So the things the two of us laugh at, not everyone will laugh at them.
But funny.
Yeah, but it becomes the way we share is that we do actually enjoy comedy, and we laugh. We don't laugh so much at each other, but we laugh with each other, I think. And that's the role humor plays. I mean, I can't say there is a direct link. I can say because of humor this has happened, but I think what tends to happen is that humor is the vehicle through which you carry some of the expression of love. Because if you are struggling on that plane, then the humor is difficult. How do you even begin to laugh with each other when with someone you're having a difficult relationship with?
Awesome. All right, so a few comments. Gabriel says this interview content should be made into a book.
Is he going to write it?
And of course, Wembia is saying he loves that Grace Finder. That's his key takeaway. So a question from Milika. How have you kept the fire burning even after the kids came in the picture? Balancing building your life and being parents at the same time, without making the other part die out. You can be as brief as you can be.
Very brief.
These questions.
I mean, you start out in life just the two of you, and then the children arrive, and then the children leave. So if you build your whole life around the children when they arrive, then your third part of your life becomes very difficult. Now, my job, as Agnes said, was different to hers. She was a nurse, and therefore she worked long hours, shifts. I worked away from home quite a lot, sometimes out of the country, and I would be gone at one point I was gone for 1 month, and so Agnes is there with the children on her own. But I think there is a sense in which a lot of it's all linked together really in the whole 5 lessons, insofar as if you have that mutual respect and confidence, the confidence especially in the fact that I can sit down and do my work and know that the children are being looked after, or alternatively, when Agnes went to nursing college, most of the time I was at home with the children.
Right, seasons in life.
So I think you have to you have to have the means of handling these things, because life throws a lot of things at you.
Yes.
You must deal with them. But I don't think there is a I don't know, maybe Agnes wants to say something.
I think for us, we did do a lot, not a lot, we did holidays quite a bit. So it's like, you know that maybe you are so tired, you go away with the kids.
Just to
just to get away from it all. Bond the two of you and together with the kids. So, and I think probably when maybe to some extent our children know us too more than they know the rest of the family. But again, I think it's the situation we were in.
Yes.
Yeah, but we did find going away on holiday. And
I think it's a very important thing to do that as a family. You must find time. Just spend time away from it all as well. Some say away to it all, but from it all, so that you are just yourselves and you share as a family.
So that's a tradition.
That's a tradition
that you have upheld.
Yes.
All right. We need to wind down. I think some of these questions we probably need to send them through to you.
Okay.
Then you can give us an input. But I think, good. So let me take advantage to ask the last two questions. Last two, YouTube family and Facebook family. But keep the questions coming, and then we can always send them through, and then you could always give an answer.
Of course.
And then we can then post it on the Facebook page. Okay, so Kondolan is asking, as the years have rolled on, what matters do you think you misplaced your priorities in your younger days? Like, are there things that you look back and say, those were misplaced priorities? Now, I think... Yeah.
Probably for me, I think doing nursing after having kids. Both our children are not Christians, and I think to some extent, sometimes ago, is it because I was so busy with trying to get a career and not spending much time with them. And I think just maybe praying with them when they are young, just teaching them that God is very important in your life. He is number one.
Right.
But I think as much as it sounds, I don't know how people think that we've been away for this long. Being away from family, it had its own problems, because that means you were all they had. So if you're not doing certain things, then they miss out.
Right.
I mean, the churches we went to, all of them were very, very good. But I think probably at home I didn't put in as much as I should because of shifts and tired. I did permanent nights for so long.
Wow.
Because childcare is very expensive.
Yes.
So during the day, the father would be there. During the day I was there, the father...
Then would be at work.
Yes, and then vice versa.
Right.
So, I think I do regret that a bit.
Okay.
So, because I felt maybe I was tired more the time, especially when you're doing permanent nights. It's like,
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
I think I'll take the next question.
All right, cool. All right, then. So, Stella is back with another question, and this will be our last question. How do you manage conflict, especially as the scripture says, don't let the sun go down on your anger? Silent treatment might not be a wise thing.
Yes.
She's right.
Yeah. I think, again, it's... you will get conflicts, invariably. I mean, in every human relationship, you will get conflicts. But as Agnes said, I'm a very logical thinker. I try and rationalize these things. Now, whether they actually get resolved that very day, the literal, I suppose if I took the literal on don't let the sun go down, I can't say in every situation that was the case. In some cases, it took more than one sundown, several sundowns before we got to it.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. But I think you have to realize that this needs resolving.
Yes.
And silent treatment doesn't resolve. I already mentioned earlier when we were talking about communication, I don't know of one conflict or issue we had that got resolved through silent treatment. But we think of one? No? No? Sorry, I'm being flippant here.
You made a cup of tea to make it better.
Yeah. I mean, on a serious note, I think you can't not communicate, and I think that's the resolution, really. There are two ways you are communicating. One, you are communicating through your actions, the things you're doing to show that you are sorry, because sometimes, as I say, sorry can just be mouthed, but your actions show not.
Oh, yes.
And the other is through just sitting down and walking through the things that have gone wrong. But you can also do it through the wider family. If the conflict is such that the two of you can't actually handle it. Involving the other people. There is a lot of wisdom in doing that.
Whether it's counselors or...
Yeah. I know that maybe it's not so much... Many people like to resolve the issues themselves. They think that... going to a counselor shows we have failed. But I don't think that's what it shows. It is wisdom insofar as you realize the limitations of your wisdom.
And I think it's a lot of us men who struggle with that.
Yeah, it's mostly a men thing, yeah. I mean, men, we don't talk much. I mean, there's a club near where we lived, which is a men's club, and its title was It's Okay to Talk. So, yes. Yeah, so I think communication is the key. You need to talk about conflicts. But I think if you go through, I kind of take issue with the fact that we've called this the top 5. Let's call them the 5 lessons.
The 5 lessons, right? Okay.
Yeah. So I think even if you were to attempt to do these 5 lessons and do them well, I think you'll find that a lot of the conflicts are resolvable.
Yes.
Yeah, there are other lessons we can go. You've noticed some of them we've added an "and" to extend beyond 5 in a kind of by making a love and commitment. So that we could have had those two as separate things and then discuss them in detail. But generally, I think it's a good summary, the 5 lessons. And I think you probably see fewer conflicts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think thinking from a reflective point of view, I think one key takeaway or a couple of key takeaways, is the fact that even though, of course, your marriage, the 40 years did not happen here, it happened overseas. Of course, there were pluses and minuses with that. But I see that the principles still remain the same.
Absolutely.
Regardless of whether you're diaspora, whether you're here, what will keep a marriage is the same principles we see, which of course are obviously governed by the Word of God, as we've been alluding to, as we've been going along. And I think it's been a great interview. I've learned a lot.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm sure you've also learned your nuggets.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, I think my encouragement to everyone watching would be that I think in doing a show like this, it goes to show that for people who've been married 40 years, there's still learnings that are still happening, still learning about each other, and also the importance of seeking counsel of those who have gone before and are still together. And so I think that would be our encouragement to everyone, that seek counsel. Where you feel things have gone too far and beyond you, there is always help in the church family, not only with the elders in church, but also with couples that have been around for a while. Any closing remarks, closing thoughts for couples out there who are hoping to hit 40 years in marriage? A few words as we close.
When I look back, it's all of grace, grace of God, because you look around, you see people struggle. You struggled, but you made it through. I think it's all of grace.
I'll quote Don Carson, who was quoting someone else, a couple that had been married for about 60 years, and they were being interviewed on radio. And as they were being interviewed, they got to the end of that interview, and the interviewer asked the last question, "Have you ever considered divorce?" And the man bristled and says, "Divorce? Divorce? Never. Murder, yes, but divorce, never." So Oh, I think that's a good place to stop. Yeah.
We don't want to see anyone in jail tomorrow.
No, we go back to the grace of God, yes.
Amen. Yeah, but I think the point Don was trying to make was the fact that as fallen men and women, we will actually have situations where we will feel like, conflicts, fights and things. Yeah. But the one thing that we never think about is breaking this covenant that God has put together. We have a covenantal love. It's more than just when I'm feeling nice. It's all about
commitment.
Commitment, yeah. And I think that's the serious point really to finish on.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. This has been Reform Studios. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your questions. Our social media team, I think, will help us and be on the lookout for any questions and forward them to Mr. and Mrs. Sindano. If at all there will be any questions that will come in afterwards. We hope that you've had a wonderful time. I know I've learned a lot, and I'm sure most of us can say the same. So until next time, next week we are taking a break. We won't have Reform Studios live, but we will carry on after next week. So just be on the lookout for a few clips from this particular segment that we've had today. Our broadcast team will put together a few nuggets and summarize them and share them next week, Wednesday. Tell your friends, if at all they missed it, to say, look out next week, Wednesday. We'll have those nuggets on our social media platform, especially Facebook. Thank you so much. Have a pleasant night. Mr. and Mrs. Sindano, thank you so
much for having
much.
us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.